Alright guys, how's it going? My name is Nyxre and welcome to another episode of The Good, The Bad, and The Teemo, where today I'm going to be covering full AP Gragas. As is provided at the beginning of every episode in this series, here's a quick reference guide and or cheat sheet for anyone who is interested in seeing how I went about testing this specific build out myself. I'm in no way saying that this is the best way to build full AP Gragas, but it is the way I went about building it for the sake of this video. An Imgur link to this picture can be found down in the description below. Starting off with the good things about AP Gragas, he has some of the highest burst potential in the game. Landing all of your abilities on any squishy target is a guaranteed kill, with some cases only requiring your Q and your ultimate. This is particularly useful in the cases where you find yourself missing a skill shot or two, as it won't necessarily mean that you won't win a fight. Working great with this burst is the fact that Gragas does % health damage with his W. This means that when facing an opponent who may be a bit tankier, he can still be a major threat, as his W will allow for him to slowly chunk the enemy laner down before going for the all-in. However, if Gragas falls behind to the point where he can't burst someone down, he still supplies an immense amount of crowd control. The crowd control provided by Gragas is sometimes considered to be some of the most impactful available in the game. His ultimate can be used for both engage and disengage, and his body slam proves useful for when trying to go for picks. In most cases, the disruption created from his ultimate will be able to buy your team the time they need to finish off the enemy frontline or dive into the enemy carries. Gragas also has a respectable amount of sustain. His passive provides him with 4% of his maximum health whenever an ability is used, and this should be sufficient most of the time to keep yourself from being pushed out of lane from poke. Tied in with this is the fact that AP Gragas is noticeably more tanky than a traditional mid lane mage. The damage reduction provided from Drunken Rage, coupled with the extra health provided from Rod of Ages, will allow for you to endure some extra bursts from the enemy carries in teamfights. And lastly, AP Gragas is really fun to play. This obviously doesn't affect how useful it is in game, but Gragas is a really fun champion to play when built with burst damage in mind. Being able to chain your ultimate into a body slam into a waiting Q barrel never ceases to be an extremely satisfying feat. And it has the added bonus of tilting the enemy laner as they're unable to do anything for the next 3 or 4 seconds while they become a ping pong ball. Moving on to the bad, Gragas' wave clear isn't up to par with most mid lane champions. Ever since they nerfed damage on his Q to minions a few seasons ago, Gragas fell out of favor in the mid lane, and this is one of the primary reasons why. While you can still clear waves easily with your Q and body slam combo, it's not as ideal as other mages because it involves using your only escape. On top of this, your Q is relatively easy to dodge while in lane. As your primary source of poke, it's important for you to continuously use it to harass the enemy, but most of the time your lane opponent will have sufficient warning to move out of the way. To combat this, using your body slam to keep them in place first is likely your best option. These two things together highlight one of the downfalls of AP Gragas, and that he really only has one escape with his body slam. Should this not be sufficient enough, you are still able to use your ultimate to put some major distance between yourself and the enemy, but it involves using a very major cooldown. Having a good amount of vision while playing full AP Gragas is very important, as it will allow for you to play aggressive without worrying too much about saving your abilities. Lastly, and this is a very minor thing, your body slam can be blocked very easily by things like minions. Many times while trying this build out myself, I found myself going in for the all-in, only for it to be ruined by a lone minion running in the way at the last second. Likewise, enemies can sometimes flash in front of you right as you go to body slam in order to keep you from getting away. Again, this is a very minor thing, and players who are much better than myself shouldn't really run into this problem all that often. Moving on to the Teemo, these are the things which are very bad about building Gragas this particular way, and deal with some of the more crucial issues. One of these issues is that you are very reliant on your Drunken Rage ability in teamfights. At level 18 it provides you with 18% damage reduction, which is very important when the enemy team is very likely to treat you as one of the first targets. Without this ability, you lose out on a lot of the tankiness that you would otherwise have. Due to the fact that it only lasts for 2.5 seconds, timing is also important, as the enemy can easily wait it out in most cases. Another crucial aspect of Gragas is that 3 of his 4 abilities are technically skill shots, each of which can possibly be avoided by the enemy team. This is of course a thing regardless of how you build Gragas, but when building full AP, you lose out on a ton of damage each time an ability misses. Your ability to nuke the enemy team in a teamfight is greatly reduced if you mess up part of your combo, and because of the cooldowns on your abilities aren't fantastic, you most likely won't have a chance to try it again in the same fight. And lastly, one of the worst things about Gragas, which is actually bittersweet, is the displacement on his ultimate. Even at the professional level, there are still players who use the ultimate at a less than ideal moment, sometimes allowing for the enemy to escape. Placing your ultimate in the wrong spot can sometimes turn the fight in the enemy's favor. Because of this, I personally prefer to hold onto the ult until I know for sure that it will execute whoever I throw it on. Even with this mentality, I've still had my fair share of games where I've given up a few kills by helping the enemy get away. And that's it for AP Gragas. This episode was a bit of a throwback to a popular Season 3 build when many people would still build Gragas as an AP assassin. It doesn't work quite as well anymore, but it can still be really fun to play in certain matchups. Feel free to leave a like if you did enjoy the video, and subscribe if you're new around here and would like to see more. If you didn't like the video, feel free to leave a dislike. All I ask is that you leave a comment with what you believe I could have done better, so that my future content can continue to improve. But anyways, that's all I have for you guys in this video. I hope you've enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next one.